Hi, folks. My name is Girish, the host for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics for another week for season three. Today, we're going to speak with Dagna Bieda, and we're going to find out how to pronounce her last name. That's the first thing. But then, what we're going to talk about is career change on the tech industry and how we're adapting to the new digital age and new world. And yes, we did talk about the digital footprint in many, many episodes before. But now we're actually in it. And we're going to find out as to why should we do a career change and do we need to? Or do we just do the same career and improve our skills? So those are the things that we'll be talking about that today. And let's talk to Dagna and let's find out who she is, what she is all about. So let's get on a phone call with her and get to know her better. I'll see you there. Hi, folks. My name is Girish, the host for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics for another week. Today we're talking to a guest, and I've already explained that in the intro. Amazing person, a great personality that I spoke with a month ago, maybe a few weeks back. I really don't know, but we really had a great time. But there's one thing that we both had one thing in common, which is technology and the career and the digital age that we're living in and the digital footprint that we're living in. And we're going to get into the details of that. So this is the episode for career, and we're going to find out, as I said earlier in the introduction, we're going to find out what her last name is and how to pronounce that. And Dagna is her first name, and I'm not going to butcher the name again for the second one because I've already said that in my intro. So once a chance, and second time is maybe a try. So why don't we talk to her, get to know her better, and let's talk to her. Dagna, how are you? Thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
Hi, Girish. I'm really happy and excited to be here.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting how you decided to, talk about my last name first.
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
get that all the time. So my last name, the way you pronounce it, it's Bieda, Dagna Bieda, kind of as if you would if you were saying it in Spanish, although it's a Polish last name. But the way that we say things is it's kind of similar across these two particular cultures. So, but I
That's
get asked about that all the time. So,
but in the introduction, I did mention your last name, and I hopefully when this comes live, you can hear it how I pronounced it, and it's really awesome. By the way, I really tried really hard. But thank you again
okay,
for coming here, and thank you again
absolutely.
for supporting the small podcast that I have. But before we talk about the topic that I've already mentioned in my intro, and even now, what does back to basic mean to you?
It's really about getting back to the core of what is important in life. And these things are basic things, right? Like feeling enjoyment from what it is that you're doing, feeling like you want to get up every day and do the things that motivate you, and that you want to do it with the community, using the skills, growing. And, that feels like very basic to me, important at my core. And I'm
Mm.
hoping that a lot of your listeners are really resonating with that message.
Yeah, thank you again. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but it's basic for you and basic for me. But for a lot of people, the digital world or digital career is not as simple as that, and that's why we're going to have this phone call and this episode today. So it's going to be a great show. So thank you again for coming on the show here. Now, when it comes to the digital world and the career, do you think they're two separate worlds that we're getting into? Because I mean, you're talking to a person who's a analog person getting into the digital world. How do you train that person? I mean, what do you say to that person that you don't know digital, so now you lose, so get out, or do you give them skills to build up?
So first of all, it sounds like what you're talking about is confidence issue, right? Like
It's
dealing with technology can absolutely be scary for very many people, especially for most of their life. They didn't need technology, right? And
mm,
for someone like myself who has a background of being a software engineer and now working with software engineers as a career coach, the complexities of tech are a lot of them feel very simple and basic to me. You're absolutely
mm,
right with the fact that my perspective is skewed. But in terms of having that confidence in approaching tech, it's really about embracing curiosity, right?
mm, mm,
If you think about technology, at the end of the day, these are tools that we humans created to help us in some way, shape, or form to live a better, more meaningful life. Uh, Life that allows us to maybe outsource certain tasks to machines so then we can focus on other things like playing with our kids or something, or traveling, enjoying things that we no longer have to do because they have been automated. So in
mm,
terms of talking about the confidence, like I said, it's really about changing your mindset, changing your perspective. If you are the analog person who's now entering the technology world and trying to figure out how to operate within it, try to be curious. Because yes, it can be daunting, but if you can change that mindset and approach it with the frame of mind that's based on curiosity, oh, how this tool can help me, how this tool can make my life easier, can allow me to have more time to spend on the things that I really care about.
mm.
With that curiosity in mind, it's so much easier to like step into that tech world and start using it for its purpose, for what it was created for, which is advantage of the
That's
human race.
That's right. Dagna, let me ask you this. Thank you again for answering that question. You know, a person who has been working in I guess, the old technology industry, okay, and for the last 30, 40 years, 20 years, whatever, right? And now today, I get a phone call saying that we're getting into the digital world. So what do I need to do? Because I don't have that many brain cells to think the new way, right? Because I've been trained to think one way, and now I have to learn a new way. What are your thought process on that? Because there's a lot of people who says, you know what, I don't want to get into this. I want to just move on to a next career. What do you think of that?
So you're absolutely right. If you've lived your entire life a certain way, dealt with only like a certain set of problems, and now you're being presented with like a completely different set of problems, it might be really hard to shift from one place to the other. Now, I do disagree with what you said about your brain cells, like not having enough of them in order to change that perspective, because the newest neuroscience shows us that the neuroplasticity of the brain, so like the way that brain can reorganize itself and switch thinking and put new patterns into place is still available throughout the lifetime. So, you know that saying, you can't teach old dogs new tricks?
Mm,
Well, neuroscience is showing us that this is not true. Now, it
mm,
does require work, it does require certain steps, awareness in order to shift those patterns, but it is very much possible, right?
mm,
So, if you are this person who is kind of set in their ways, the very first thing to do if you want to get comfortable in this new world that you're living in, the first thing is to open yourself up to the possibility that it is possible,
mm,
right? And you can use the newest science, neuroscience, in order to essentially reprogram your thinking. And that's
mm.
something that I partially do with my clients in a different context. But I like to say that I moved from programming computers to reprogramming human minds because that's essentially what I do with my clients.
Yeah, the reason why I said about the brain cells is because people, they just don't want to get um ready for the new, routine, right? So now you're talking about the old routine versus new routine, and then you're getting into the old habit to the new habit. So what are your thoughts on that part? I mean it's a fact. I mean that people are scared to get into the new routine, a new habit, and then start a new life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But at the same time, if you talk to someone who experienced a near death life experience, you can also see how that person completely shifted their perspective, shifted their habits, because they had a review of their entire life and decided, you know what? Maybe that's not serving me anymore, the way I
Mm,
used to think, the what I used to do. And you see it very, in those specific circumstances. Now, you don't need to have a near death experience in order to
of course not.
change the way how you think, right? And it's really about making a choice. Do you want to be comfortable and keep doing what you are doing? Whether it's serving you or not, that's a different question. Or whether you want to be open
Mm,
to maybe shifting your perspective, to maybe changing things a little bit so that with that new thinking comes new behavior, new
mm,
set of actions. And within those new set of actions that you start doing because you're thinking differently, now you create a new reality for yourself,
mm.
essentially.
Yeah, thank you again, Dagna, for that. Let me ask you this here. Now, for many years, we have been slowly getting into the new digital world that we're getting into, right? W- do you think that we're kind of viewing it recently is because we're just came out of, or we're still in it, but out of the whole, the virus that we just went through, right? The COVID that we went through, and now we're sitting home looking from the outside inside to the company. Do you think that we have more time to think, or do you think that it's been going on for several years now that we're vocalizing it more versus what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I'm glad you brought this question up. So in my mind, what pandemic did, you know, outside of the devastation and the many losses of human lives, what it also did by disrupting completely how we work, how we are used to doing things as societies, as humans all across the world, what it did by disrupting those patterns, it was kind of like that near death experience that I was talking about, right? So it forced us as humans to essentially reflect on
Mm,
whether the patterns that we were following, did they make sense,
mm,
whether they were serving us or not. So it raised a lot of questions by completely changing the way we were acting. If you
mm,
think about it pre-pandemic, what would we do? We would act kind of on autopilot without, as a society, putting a lot of thought into what is going on and why we do things the way we do, right? So
mm,
the typical, you would see typical, you know, kind of career progression where you kind of go to college, get a job, get a mortgage, live, work until you retire, and then maybe start living if
mm,
your health allows you for that, right? And
mm,
with the pandemic, putting things kind of like the world upside down and completely disturbing the autopilot and creating that chaos, it
mm,
gave opportunity to create something new, to
mm,
question the status quo, to question the autopilot, and like you were saying, to look inside out, right? To try and figure out what are different ways that we now get to define for ourselves
mm.
because of this event that just happened upon us
Yeah.
as a human race.
Yeah. Dagna, thank you again. In the technology world, or I should say the technology companies, right? We all, I mean, you and I are in the technology field, so I can say that we have been working remotely for the longest time. Okay. Now, but the other industries are slowly getting into that realm also, right? But now we kind of have a choice that, I can come into the office 3 times instead of 5 times or 7 times, depending on the schedules that you have. But there's still certain companies that they don't allow it, which is totally fine because that's just how it is. Do you think the semantics have kind of changed now because of the traveling time, the spending time with family time? um I don't know, maybe they're more productive when they're at home. I mean, what are your thoughts on that part?
So it's interesting that you mentioned, like, oh, that's how it is. So, that's why we keep on doing things, which kind of goes back to what I was talking about a second ago about the autopilot, right? We keep on doing the things just because we keep on doing them, because we haven't experienced doing them differently. So now with people being stuck at home, and obviously not everybody is, you're absolutely right. Not everybody was able to, to do that work from home in the middle of the pandemic. Um, but for the people that did, that they got to experience a different kind of life, like
mm,
having meetings and their kids walking in the background, having interviews and things just happening. I don't know, dogs barking in the background. Some things happen. They got to experience this new way of living. They were forced into it, and with that, now they can make a choice. Do I like the pre-pandemic experience better? Do I like the pandemic experience better because I got to not sit in traffic, sleep a little bit longer, work in my pajamas, not have to put makeup every single day, right? So like little things like that. Because you got to experience it, now you get to have that choice. And if you
mm,
think about the way we act in our life as human beings, is essentially we are the sum of our experiences in the past. So you could say that the experiences that we've had program us, just like you would program a computer or an app, to act a certain way. So the
mm,
more we get to experience life, the more choice we have about which kind of experiences we want to continue and keep
mm,
on doing
mhm,
versus the ones that we don't want to continue doing. So,
mm.
regarding going back into the office or not, that's a very highly personalized choice, I would
That's
say. In my opinion, nobody should be forced to do that. There's a lot of research emerging that is tracking who's actually more productive. And to be completely honest, when I used to go into the office during a pre-pandemic period, I loved going to the office because not because of the productivity. If I wanted to be productive, I would stay home.
right.
I went into the office for the social life, to have
Exactly.
a random chat at a water cooler, or whenever I was getting myself coffee, or going out with coworkers, to grab lunch. I was able and lucky enough to be able to replace those social interactions with hanging out with more family members, or my neighbors. I'm really lucky to have really cool and awesome neighbors. So, I had those needs met.
Mm,
Now, there's other people out there who don't necessarily, we're not necessarily able to replace that.
mm.
And, now they need to ask themselves, what is it that they want to do, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. Thank you again, Dagna, for that. And I think you and I are pretty much the same when it comes to this topic. So thank you again for answering that question. Now, what are the three top main things that people they come to you for advice or for help? I mean, there's some. There has to be some massive problem that you're trying to resolve, which people they come to you quite often. I mean, what is that?
Yes. So essentially, the top things. So let me backtrack it a tiny little bit. What I do at this point in time is I'm a career coach, a tough love, been in your shoes kind of coach, because
Mm,
I've been a software engineer and now I coach engineers in tech that do programming on a daily basis. So whether that's AI, ML, data, QA engineer, software engineer, all that bucket, you could say. And people come to me whenever they've had a few years of experience in their particular role and they get passed over for promotions, or they feel stuck because there's so many opportunities and it's hard for them to choose and optimize, and they want to make the best choice for themselves and their families given what they're trying to do with their career and with their life. So they come to me because they want to get unstuck. They want to build confidence, get past imposter syndrome, get the clarity on where to move on.
mm,
And sometimes they come to me because they tell me, Dagna, I'm stuck and I've been trying to do things, but I'm still stuck and I don't know why. And
mm,
what I specialize in is helping them to see through their blind spots,
mm,
how their experiences program them essentially to act the way they do. And we discuss, what are the strategies that are holding them back, that they keep on doing, probably oftentimes not even aware that they are doing the things that are holding them back in their career, and we are able to get past that. But in order for anyone to work with someone like myself, a career coach like myself that focuses on reprogramming the mindset for success, you have to be open to the possibility that there is a different way of thinking, that maybe something in your own thinking, in your own programming, in your own actions is what is keeping you stuck. if that makes sense. So these
No,
are
it
the
does.
main things that people come to me for.
No, it does. Thank you again for that because we do need people, someone like you, to explain that where is my stopping of my creativity or where's my blockage, so that I can move forward to the next level of my career, whatever that career is. I mean, it could be a brand new career too. You never know. Um, so, Dagna, on season three, thank you again for coming on season three. There's a new segment that we started on season three, and it's called the Rapid Fire for Back to Basics. Now, there are certain words and certain sentences which kind of resonates with you, whatever the first thing comes in your mind. And it could be a sentence, could be a story, it could be anything like that. So, are you ready?
All right, let's go. I'm not sure I exactly got all the rules here, but I hope I did.
It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty straightforward. So, the first word is going to be confidence.
The ability to believe that you can figure things out.
Okay. Analog.
Okay, that's taking way longer than I thought it would. But the first thing that came to my mind was actually about sounds, richer and more full and more disconnected kinds of sounds.
Okay. Digital world.
Speed, internet, global village.
Okay. Shifting to the left.
Yeah, nothing comes to mind with that other than politics, and that's not a topic I
Okay.
want to be getting
Okay.
into.
Shifting to the right.
The same thing.
Shifting over.
Moving past limiting beliefs that are holding you back.
Okay. Brain cells.
The biological component that you have within your body,
Okay. Routine versus habits.
running on autopilot, and internal mental programming.
Okay. Work life balance.
Oh, I hate that phrase. It's because it puts work at the beginning. Why is it work life balance and not life work balance? I'm all about creating more fulfillment in life supported throughout the career, and I hate that phrase.
Yes. You and I actually talked about that during that pre call. So that's why I mentioned that. Um, Work from home.
The ability to schedule your own time, but also the responsibility to schedule your own time.
Okay. Time management.
I would say that in terms of time management, it's that's a word that invokes like very mixed feelings on one hand, right? Because time management, I would think of it as a way to put undue pressure on yourself in terms of planning, scheduling, creating deadlines. And I am leaning more away from time management towards being efficient, working in flow, and knowing the direction that you want to be moving in
Hmm.
rather than managing by the hour. So it's more like a, you know, zooming out kind of perspective, right? You have time management here where you're focused on where every minute of your time goes,
Hmm.
and then you zoom out and you wonder like, what is the purpose of my life kind of thing? And
Okay.
is this serving that? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you again for that. Programming.
Super cool career.
Okay. Neuroscience.
That's the forefront of science right now that allows humans to understand ourselves better and reprogram the old ways of thinking, being, showing up in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And one last word, mindset.
Key to everything that you do in life.
Hmm.
Mindset is key.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you again, Dagna, for playing this rapid fire. Sometimes I like to make sure that you get challenged a little. So thank you again for playing that. Let me ask you this. I'm pretty sure you read something, like some articles or movies that you read, or novels that you read. Is there some book that you're reading that it relates to what you do, or even just anything different?
Yes, I love reading books actually. And one that I have, let me see if I have it handy. It's probably by my nightstand at this point in time because I'm still diving deep into it. But it's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I highly, highly, highly recommend reading that book to anyone who's interested in the science behind that, habit of being who you are currently being. And I love the subtitle. The subtitle is um something like how to lose your mind and get a new one or something like that. And
Okay.
the losing your mind, if you think about it, it's such a negative connotation, but the way he phrases it,
Mm,
it's just brilliant because it shows you the opportunity to essentially step outside of the version of yourself that you currently are and create a new you, the
mm,
kind of you that you're limitless,
yeah,
the
yeah.
new version. So the book is amazing, and I love it because it's very research based. So it talks a lot about physics, biology, neuroscience, and how you can use the newest advancement in that science, in the knowledge that we have, in
Mm.
order to create a better life for yourself.
Wow, Dagna, thank you again for that. Thank you again for coming on the show. So before we leave today, let me ask you, how was your journey on your Back to Basics, and do you have any last words for all my Back to Basics listeners and viewers here today?
For me, going back to basics meant getting a deeper understanding of what it is that I really care about. What is the basic necessity that I want to see in my life every single day? And it's been going incredible. I've been spending more time with my family. I've been at ease and not stressing out about getting things done. And, I'm still have ways to grow for sure, but I'm really loving the journey that I'm on. So I
Yeah,
really appreciate you being part of that journey as well, Girish.
no, Dagna, thank you again for that, because you and we've been talking offline, and I think we became good friends too at the same time, and you and I, we meet in many many different ways, the same topics but same answers too at the same time. So thank you again for supporting me, and thank you again for coming here, and thank you again for supporting me.
Absolutely. My pleasure being here.
Yeah, thank you. So, guys, we spoke with Dagna today, and we talked about the basics of the digital life and how it's changing our careers. How do you want to change your careers? And what are the thought processes? What are the mindsets that we need to do to get there? And there are certain people who do have issues of understanding what their new skills are. And that's where Dagna comes in and tries to help out. Now, as usual, as always, there is a quote of the day from Back to Basics, and hopefully my guest will like the quote. Opportunities don't happen, you create them. Because you know what? That's one thing that you got to do. You keep on reading, you keep on watching movies, keep on listening to a whole bunch of YouTubes, or listen to episodes like here today, because we're here to help out. And this one thing that we always do in this episode, everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care, God bless, and I will see you next time on Back to Basics. Take care. Dagna, how was that?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. But you did surprise me with so many questions.
Really? Like which ones? Any good ones?
um, so with the rapid fire, I felt like some of the questions were kind of like a brain freeze. I'm like, so many thoughts. Which one do I pick? Which one do I dive
Yeah,
into?
yeah. Guys, thank you again for tuning in to Back to Basics and listening to the excellent episode that we had today with our guest. With your love and support, we do need you to at least rate our show, review our show, because it does make us stronger day by day, week by week, as I usually say on my episodes. And there are three things in this episode that it makes a hit for me, which is the content, the guest, and definitely the host. So guys, take care, God bless, and remember, everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care, God bless, and see you next time on Back to Basics.